Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and Mike Jones and I have an interesting show for you tonight, this November 1st. Mike?
Oh, we do, eh? That's good. Because I was wondering what we were going to do to, break up the normal monotony.
Well, Mike has an interesting video that he made just for you, our audience. Let's see that.
Well, and the whole idea, of course, it's, and my phone just made a noise. And what that noise means is that I just got a notification that the Dale and Mike show is streaming live right now. And I thought, well, you know what? Some people may forget to go over to badcounty.com at 7 o'clock every night, and there's an easy way to get a notification of the fact that there is a live streaming show on. And then not only that, in your inbox is a link to every show that we ever have. So here's how to do that if you would like to. Okay, so hang on. Whoops. Why is that on the wrong page here?
First, start out on the right page.
Yes, that is how you do that. Let me see. Why is that? Oh, okay. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's just go right into this here. First thing you do is go to youtube.com. Okay. And then once you're at youtube.com, type in Dale Matthews. Then do this.
Hi. You want to catch the Dale and Mike show every night, but you can't remember to go to badcounty.com at 7 o'clock. Here's how you solve that problem. Go to the Dale.
Uh-oh, Mike just cut off. So at times like these, it's up to me to continue talking to you. Well, the other solution, as Mike was indicating on the video, is to remember to go to badcounty.com. And it's all one word, badcounty.com. Mike would usually ask me at this time, see, this is part of my job now. Mike would usually ask me at this time, what's that over your shoulder? And that thing over my shoulder is in reference to the first story that we're going to be talking about tonight, is eminent domain. Eminent domain is the kind of wording that makes most people wish that Mike was here. And now that he's come and rejoined us.
Okay. Now that is how you miss the Dale and Mike show every night is shut the browser off. We've Dale and I have hooked up in a way that we don't normally do. Occasionally the notification for me to join the program doesn't come through properly. And so when that happens, we're then not in Google Hangouts in a browser and then getting too deep into the weeds.
Yeah, that's got nothing to do with all you guys. That's our internal inside baseball.
Yes. Now, I'm not sure how much of this video that you guys saw. Any?
Not much. Why don't you start it from the beginning,
Okay.
Mike?
Okay. Basically, go to youtube.com, then type in Dale Matthews, and then you'll there are actually a couple of other Dale Matthews on YouTube. I think that one guy is a musician. Anyway, Dale's channel has a cat, his cat Jack, that is the icon for it. So that's an easy way to identify it.
He's a cartoon cat. Cartoon.
He's a cartoon cat. Indeed, he is. And so then when you see that, click on that and go to Dale's channel. And then from here is how you subscribe and further get notifications of every show. And here's how that goes.
Hi. You want to catch the Dale and Mike show every night, but you can't remember to go to badcounty.com at 7 o'clock. Here's how you solve that problem. Go to the Dale Matthews YouTube page, come up here, click on subscribe, but you're not done yet. Now come to the little gear that's right next to the subscribe button, click on that, and click on send me all notifications for this channel. That way, when there's a live stream on the air, you'll get a notification in your email, and it'll tell you, you need to be watching the Dale and Mike show. There you go. You're all done.
That video was too long, Mike.
It was, I know, especially because it was broken up by that disconnection there.
Yeah. You know,
That's all
this is
part
a
of the
live
video, by the
show.
way.
Yeah, we try not to start over and over again, and we don't edit this. It's highly edited. No, it's not.
Yeah, well, what's tonight?
Yeah, we just try to show you the live show, and we talk to you like you're our friends because you are our friends.
Yes.
We ended up last night, we were talking about the most important meeting of the whole week for county commissioners, where all the real action is on Thursday afternoons, Thursday mornings, and it's called the Administration Workshop. Workshop means you can't say anything. You got to just sit there and watch what they're saying. But there are times when you're thinking, what in the world are they doing? You may be thinking that most of the time, then you're like us. And we were going to show you this video last night. You just really have to see this. For me to tell you that it happened is one thing. For you to see that it happened is completely different. Here was a case where the commissioners were talking about the airport property, but it could be about anything at all. Because keeping in mind that we're hanging on by our fingernails, we're on the fiscal cliff, we can't afford law enforcement. Everything without that levy is going to be destroyed. Well, it actually wasn't, was it? And then money comes in, and we're not going to really spend it on the sheriff. And extra money comes in. They weren't expecting $1 million. Can't spend that on the sheriff. But we're starving for money. So listen carefully to Simon's attitude about preparing for the future 50 years hence, half a century from now, out at the airport. Here's what Simon has to say.
This is from my perspective of the county would be just to build it unless there's a reason to say no. Not, well, if it's the most convenient and the stars align, then we just let it happen. No. I would want a comprehensive project that included it until we said no, that there's something else better or that it wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a different. It'll be
a fairly easy cost rating and analysis. If the board decides they want to spend, pick a number, an extra $400,000 oversizing the system to catch the airports, then that's the intention of the law, and that you guys can make a decision to do it with the airport.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm going to be real disappointed. You know, I mean, I was already disappointed about 15 years ago, but I'm going to be real disappointed if by 2065 we still don't have flying cars.
Okay, but
come on, people.
Look, here's the important thing about this piece of video. Simon has already denied that this happened. Remember their latest thing that they're doing of saying that never happened? That's not on the videotape. Mm-hmm. That can't possibly be on the videotape because it never happened. This conversation never took place. What you just saw, you can erase that from your memory because it never happened. What was it, Mike, that he just said about spending the money? We can play it again, but Mike remembers. What was it that Simon just said?
I could not discern it, to be honest.
Let's play it. Let's play it again. Listen carefully to what he's saying. Everybody, not just Mike. Everybody.
Oh, now here we go.
The emphasis from my perspective of the county would be just to build it unless there's a reason to say no.
Just to build it unless there's a reason to say no.
Oh, is that what you're referring to? I thought
just to build it unless there's a reason to say no?
Well, I mean, that's kind of default for these guys, don't you think?
Yes, and then Rob Brandis, the head of public works, says, well, you know, if the board decides just to build it, unless there's a reason to say no, there's no reason now to say yes, but unless there's a reason to say no, let's just build it. Well, if the board wants to put in an extra, how much? $400,000. Well, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Why does the airport not support itself? How come the airport doesn't take in enough money to have its own projects going on? I mean, if that's not happening, why is it that the airport, I mean, ostensibly the airport is supposed to be making money. Is this not the case?
Oh, yeah, well, apparently it's making some money, but this is a pet project of Cheryl Walker. She and Larry Graves at the airport are politically tied to each other, and they are going to build that thing up no matter what anybody says. Did you realize, Mike, that the airport in Merlin is the heart of this community? They've said it many times.
I'm sure it is, along with all the other hearts of the community.
There are
We
people
should
here
be
who don't
very,
even
very
know we
strong
have.
with all the hearts we have.
There are people here who don't even know we have an airport. We have two. That's very
Yes.
unusual for any county. It's the heart of the community. Therefore, anything that look, one of the things that they say about this is the county is trying to get all this money in to build up the airport. And they were talking about the sewer system out there. Sewer system. Yeah, well, at the original point, there was going to be a rest stop, a state rest stop. Well, that's why we need a sewer system. No, that's gone. Well, the elementary school out on Monument, that's why we need to have a sewer system. No, they're not interested. The school, the high school out there, well, that's why we need. No, they're not interested. Well, Rendata out there, no, they have their own plan. Well, the airport's going to need it. The airport can't expand with that. Well, they just said at this meeting the airport's too far away, and there's no need for it.
Right. I mean, there isn't that much infrastructure out at the airport. And unless they have a tremendous amount of new business happening there at the airport, they're not going to need the expansion of a sewer system. For crying out loud, they have plenty of room out there to expand a current septic if they have one out there. So they don't need to be on the
Well,
somebody's obviously pushing that for another reason.
yes.
There's obviously another reason.
Cheryl said at the weekly business session, this last one, that we have more airplanes at the Grants Pass Merlin Airport than they do at the Medford International Airport.
Okay.
I'm going to be talking with some of the aviation people here and say, is this true?
Yeah, it might be just another Cherylism there.
Yes. Yeah. Or a number of those airplanes aren't really flyable airplanes. I mean, we both know people who are still assembling that same aircraft they were trying to make 30 years ago.
Yes, there are a lot of hobbyist flyers out at the Grants Pass Airport. I spent a few years being one of those people myself, and then I came to my senses. And but there are a lot of those guys out there, and some of those guys go out and visit their airplane, once a year, and some of them are out there incessantly.
Well, we'll find out some answers to this if we even think it's worth the effort of trying to track down things that Cheryl Walker says and find out if they're true. But my default setting now is, this is terrible, but my default setting now is probably not true. I mean, how many times do you get burned on this? Okay, we go to the next thing. Why is this over my shoulder? Eminent domain. Well, it's part of a tendency on this commission. I'm sorry, this is just the case, to change the wording because they're scary words like taking people's property that don't want to turn over their property and declaring that you must have the property and they must give it to you and you're going to give them what you consider to be a fair price and they can just take it or not or die or whatever. Eminent domain is scary words to a lot of people. So they decided a while back to change. They don't call it eminent domain. You never hear them say eminent domain ever again. Wally did a couple of times, and no. It's now called a resolution of necessity.
Right.
Well, neither one of them is intuitive, but it's a resolution of necessity. Well, that sounds a lot more benign.
Well, listen, it's very misleading. Most people know what eminent domain is. Right. I mean, they get the general idea. Somebody's going to be taking land from somebody so that something else can be put there.
But a resolution of necessity could be, let's be sure to paint all of the fire hydrants the same color. It's
right.
a resolution of necessity.
Oh, listen. This is another one of those things where, you know, the lack of transparency is a huge political advantage, because when you don't tell people what you're doing, then they're not watching you.
Well, this one is about Lakeshore Drive. It doesn't really matter where it is. It's the whole concept of the thing. This is why when Wally would talk with citizens, he was elected by us, but he doesn't do that anymore. This is why there's no difference between a tax and a fee. Well, we've got to raise the fees around here. They're raising the taxes. Even Wally says the state doesn't know what, there is no definition that's different between a fee and a tax. It's the same thing. It's just a different word for it. Both 3 letters. One of them has 2 letters in it. That's nice. You
Yes.
can't say
again, the difference between them is.
Go ahead, axe the tax and raise the fee.
Right. Yes. You know, again, the difference between them is purposefully vague.
Right. And it used to be until just recently that matters from commissioners, this is the reason they got in so much trouble with the state finally, after us talking about this with everybody as long as we could, turning purple in the face, matters from commissioners was only for emergencies. Then matters from commissioners started happening a lot more. And then it started happening every week. And matters from commissioners, instead of now being an emergency, was a standard way that they could talk about anything they wanted to without telling you what they're talking about, which is against state law. Matters from commissioners, no longer an emergency. Or that they'll never take a vote in the little back room. This was a promise from Simon. Well, we're always going to take a vote in front of the public so that they have something to say. We have seen, and we've told you about things that have started in the little back room, ended in the little back room. You cannot comment. You'll never get a chance to comment because they also took the vote in the little back room. That's not the spirit of democracy or republicanism, is it? That's why we call it badcounty.com. Or we're not going to regulate, we're not going to require justifications by the fire companies. We're simply going to require justifications and permission from the fire companies. We're not requiring justification, we're simply requiring justification. It's not a business license. I'm not making this up. It's not a business license. It's a license of businesses. It's not a listening device. It's
those are 2 different kinds of apples.
That's correct. Exactly right.
Yes.
As Simon Hare points out, the one property out on Lakeshore Drive that they want to acquire, part of that property has a section of it that is, what do they call that? A riparian area. And as Simon points out, well, the fact that we need that riparian area,
grow fruit there or something,
you're not supposed to build anything on it, right? Because there's plants and animals and water and that kind of stuff. Well, but the county plans to build something on it. I haven't figured out how that works, and we can't talk with Wally anymore because he won't answer any questions at all from anybody now. Well, he was burned. He was participating in illegal meetings. Nobody said it's illegal. Yes, they have. Stop it. Okay. So the county wants to build on an area where we're not supposed to build. And as Simon points out, well, this guy that we want to take this property from, he should really consider it to be a blessing because it's a riparian area and he can't do anything with it. There are some people in our community that think leaving a riparian area alone is doing something with it. But of course, you know, there are other people who say, well, that's crazy. You know, how are you going to build a large building on that? You can't. How can the county?
Right. And, you know, if the county is going to build on this one here, then perhaps other people whose land is locked up because of the designation of this riparian area will have cause to dispute with the county about why they can't use theirs.
Right. But the main, yes, right. But the main point I was trying to make on this one is Simon felt that this guy should consider this to be a blessing. that they want to take his property, and it looks at this moment as if he doesn't want to sell them the property, so they're going to go to court.
And this is a perfect illustration of what happens to the brain of somebody who enters public service and then can no longer think with the brain of people who live outside public service.
It sure looks like it to me. But anyway, that's why eminent domain is creeping over my shoulder. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing they talked about at the Thursday meeting is Mike Bollweg came up. That name sounds familiar to you, doesn't it? Mike Bollweg. Interesting name, Bollweg. This is the guy that was out at the not Cave Junction. He lives in Cave Junction. He was at the Gold Hill meeting where he was explaining how they would prefer that he not compete with the prices of government. Remember that poor guy that was standing up there? Yeah, and he deals with water systems. Okay. So they were talking with this guy about water systems. He's in Cave Junction, and about the school district and the renovations that they want to do of their waste treatment. And the commissioners were laughing once again, saying the school district thinks they're just going to, repair this thing and will be good for 5 to 10 years. It'll be good for 5 to 10 years. They still haven't gotten the message that they need to join Cheryl Walker's campaign to scrap their system and start all over again with this thing from the county. They're just fit to be tied. Cheryl went to the Infrastructure Finance Authority, which is from the state of Oregon, and they're the ones that invest our money in something that most banks are not interested in. Sewer systems, they're just not interested in it because you're really not going to make much money off of these things. And so Cheryl went to them, it's part of the public record, and said the school district, we're not talking about the Grants Pass School District, the county one, is fully on board on this. Only problem is the school district was not fully on board on this. And they did not know that Cheryl Walker and Rob Brandis from Public Works were telling people in these open public meetings here that the school district was fully on board. But she was telling the Infrastructure Finance Authority, and they were going, well, that's good. Okay, then good. Then we could probably get the money for you. Now, their job at the IFA is to give out money anyway. So once they found out from me personally that they were not fully on board, and once the school district found out from me personally at one of their meetings that Cheryl was saying this, the Infrastructure Finance Authority decided to sort of gloss over that lie. And they're going to give them the money anyway. And then the IFA almost certainly found out that there wasn't going to be any state ODOT rest stop, and that the school board in 2 different ways was not on board, and that the airport's not going to be included, and that it looks like the people out there, the first ones to sign on, are going to have to foot the entire bill. Now the commissioners are talking about, well, they're not quite sure, but this might not be a grant from the state. It might be a loan. How do you feel about that? If they're going to give away money out of one pocket into another pocket, but they're going to loan us the money and we're going to borrow it, this explains why they want to have a great credit rating. So this county that is hanging on by its fingernails can borrow money for something that seems like it's a boondoggle in the first place. Mike?
Well, if the people in that area are going to be footing the bill for it, then I guess, the board probably figures, who cares if it's a loan?
They'll never be able to pay enough money to do this. They'll never be able to. And it's set up that way. Everybody there knows that there's no way these guys are going to be able to do that. They're going to jack the price up as high as they can, but it will be whatever the market will bear or whatever they tell them you got to do. There's no way that they're going to be, would you pay $10,000 a month or something? No, I don't think so. So
I still need to know why. Why are they doing it? What is it? What developer is going to come along and take advantage of the fact that, oh, look, here's a sewer system. It's here. It's all ready to plug into, and I didn't have to pay anything to make it happen.
Right.
Who is, where's the connection there? There has to be, because what else is the motivation for this?
Well, Cheryl's got all kinds of anecdotal evidence of people who are not companies, hundreds of thousands of companies, I'm exaggerating, who are not moving here because they don't have Cheryl's sewer system out there. These are the same people who are not
then
moving
by
here
all
because
means, do it.
they're the same people not moving here because of badcounty.com. She literally said that. They're not moving here because of this, as she put it, this crap that you're watching tonight. That's Cheryl's explanation. That's why
that explains the sewer system.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't
because
understand
they're
that.
going to try and drain off the crap.
That's right. Oh, that's very good, Mike. Okay.
Yes.
That's good. Okay, so
yes. You like that?
Yeah. Now there's also something. Somehow I missed this during the budget hearings. The North Valley Industrial Park. Let me look at my notes. Reserve Fund. The North Valley Industrial Park Reserve Fund from the general fund, instead of paying out money, let's say, to law enforcement. Well, maybe they could take, there's going to be still plenty in there, but perhaps they can use $30,000 from the North Valley Industrial Park Reserve Fund to do some kind of project that it's very difficult to hear them at these meetings. I picked up $30,000. Well, I mean, I made a note of $30,000 because we're supposed to follow the money. And I thought, really, the North Valley Industrial Park Reserve Fund? How did we miss that at the, because they never mentioned it, because it's part of the documentation, but they didn't want to mention it aloud. There you go. There's your transparency, everybody.
George.
The airport has simply not reached the critical mass, although Cheryl Walker has said that it has before. They now say in this meeting it has not reached the critical mass to even send a line out to it. But they can always annex it into the system if it helps them get the grants. It's a grant gathering process. And somebody's going to get a certain amount of that shaved off the top, skimmed off the top for administration fees.
Yeah, sometimes I just think that perhaps there isn't anything you can do. I mean,
we know what you can do. You can replace these guys with a couple of other people right. Who are more conservative with your money. They're going to watch over your money. Okay, now we've got another video for you. And what my challenge to all of you is to watch this video. Look, when they were doing this, I sort of sit back and I listen to them, and sometimes I rest my eyes because my eyes burn a little bit. Okay, big deal. Oh, you're sleeping again. No, I'm not. We're doing a pretty good job if we're sleeping. It's a daily show that talks for this. Usually when I set up, Simon is already looking at me because he knows they said something controversial or something dumb or whatever. And I'm thinking, we do get some criticism, and I understand this, for always being critical. Well, can't you catch the commissioners doing something good? That's Chamber of Commerce talk, catch them doing something good. And they'll say, well, we're really the best ever at all kinds of things, and no one ever recognizes that. Okay, so I saw an opportunity. Really, I'm being straight with you. I thought, well, here's an opportunity for Mike and I to show that the commissioners are reasonable, that they're using common sense, that they've got a good plan, that all this makes sense, and it's good for us. It's really good for us because we've got bad county and goodcounty.com, but there's not much on goodcounty.com, and it's nowhere near as popular as bad county. Well, go figure. Okay, so because we're not well known in the whole state for being the good county or having good-hearted whatevers. We've got plenty of people, lots of wonderful things around here, but government's not really known for being top-notch. And now this has been officially recognized by the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. Okay, so I thought, well, here's a chance to show, because I'm always looking for this. We've had people on our show that work for the county, and I love the fact that they seem to be honest people that are trying to do a good job. May not agree with them on everything, but we've had them on, and I'm always looking for that. And I encourage a lot more people than will show up on our show or allow us to do a video with them to talk with us, so that we can show, look, we're not monochromatic. We realize that there are good, colorful, honest people out there in county government. Of course there are. So I thought, well, here's the perfect opportunity. And the more that you listen to this, I think you'll agree with me. And we can start and stop this if you want to, Mike. And you can comment, oh, that makes sense. This makes sense. I think you'll agree it makes sense. Until about 3 minutes into this, and you go, oh, wait a minute. And then a little bit further, and it ends up throwing the whole dang thing out the window. You'll see. Let's listen to the commissioners finally doing something so smart, so intelligent, so reasonable, so common sense. Let's let them take it away. Let's go, Mike. Manita Way. Lane, Manita.
I have a petition from the people that live out on Canita for a 35-mile-an-hour speed zone. We did a traffic study, and 90% of the people are driving currently 36 miles an hour and less. There's a couple of citizens out there, so there's one or two people that live out there that are driving fast. The fastest speed that we had was 48. So I'm not certain if there really is a need for a speed zone out there, because everyone appears to be driving with slower speeds. But again, as the road authority, I'm asking.
What was the percentage?
For 90% are driving less than 36 miles an hour.
Now, you'll hear them say on this tape that the state has decided, ODOT's decided, that 55 is a safe level during normal driving conditions. We've all been on the state roads where you're going around a corner and it says 35. It's a safe. Nah, you get there, you go 35. You got to be kidding me, because they go overboard. You know that. So they say along this stretch, according to the state, 55 is fine. No problems. You can't be careening all over the place and driving drunk or driving backwards, but 55 is fine. And what did they just say? These people out on Canita, it connects Monument with Monument, go figure, that there's some residents out there who are driving 36. And there's one guy twice a day, probably going to work and back, that drives 48. Now, the residents have decided to drive on their own 20 miles under the, it's not posted, but it's generally 55 if it's not posted. They've decided to drive 20 miles under that. This guy, twice a day, is driving 10 miles under that. They want a sign out there saying you must drive the speed that they've chosen. That's what this is about. Canita Lane. Go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Nope.
You know, the guy is still going to drive 48 and everybody else is still going to drive the speed. Listen, this is something that doesn't need any fixing.
Yes, but they want a $500
need
sign.
Fixing.
They want a $500 sign, probably two of them on both sides, warning everybody, we believe as a community that you ought to be driving slower. It doesn't mean that he's careening all over the place. It doesn't mean, they had not a single word about anyone not driving safely. The only question is, what speed can you drive? And he's driving 10 miles under that. Go ahead and let's hear what their plea is to the county commissioners.
My problem is we can put a sign up there that says 35 miles an hour. Who could enforce the thing? It's already being enforced by the community in the sense that 90% of the people are driving 36 or less.
Yeah.
I just don't see the practical aspect of what's going to be.
Thank you very much.
Of having a sign put up there, the cost of that, maintaining that, replacing the ones that are stolen on a regular basis or whatever.
Is it currently posted?
No.
It's not posted at any speed. No. It's just the state reasonable speed, whatever that is.
55.
But yeah, like you say, 90% of the people are going 36 or less.
Yeah.
And that road is a connector in one sense between the
Monument
north and the west side. And the people that would use that normally, I'm assuming, would be the residents who live on that road. It's not a shortcut.
Right.
And I think that the people, the citizens themselves would maintain it. Like, there's a couple of people who live out there who go a little faster. Well, maybe the community might implore them to slow down like the rest of us are doing.
Yeah.
Seems reasonable.
There is always the potential that I could come back and say,
Yeah.
I think a 45 is appropriate.
Yeah.
And we don't want people upset.
It's really a perfect example as to why the 85th percentile is used. Whenever we bring that up, people say, well, you're effectively letting people decide how fast they're going to drive. No, it's because people innately drive a safe speed for the road, by and large. That's why it's 85% of the people. So without signage, this is landing within less than 2 miles an hour of where the accepted safe speed is.
Yeah. How long is it done? How long is it?
Okay, so you can see why I'm excited about this. I'm happy about this, right? Because finally we get to show a video where they're all being, even Cheryl is being quite reasonable. Rob Brandis, everybody at the table is saying, no, wait a second. I don't know if we need to spend that kind of money. The community is under the speed limit. They're doing okay. We don't really need a sign, an expensive sign, and maybe a couple of them. And we're going to need to replace them. And $500 per sign. I didn't know it was that much. And so they're saying, let's just have less government than this. It seems like a problem that we don't need to solve. Great. I'm totally happy and saying, and I was going to play on tonight's show, here's this thing that the commissioners are doing, and let's say hooray for them, and we'll encourage them and ask them to do this kind of thing. We try that. Just wait. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. Before we go on, can we just address this?
Please.
Probably nobody uses more road signs than the government.
Yes.
And, so many, one might think that perhaps they might even manufacture them. And how is it that if they are the ones manufacturing them, that they cost $500 a piece?
It's a real good point.
What
Mike.
in the heck what is that?
Yes.
Come on. It's a 4x4 post and a piece of metal that's been, painted and perhaps had some, with some special reflective paint. For crying out loud, that's $500? Really?
It's a good point. But these guys are going to say, no, it's actually not necessary. And I'm not sure it's on this portion of the tape because they talked about this for like 20 minutes, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a lot of people in that room. You figure with the number of people that were in that room waiting to speak or already up there in that room, not counting me, of course, was $1 million worth of firepower. In Cold War terms, their intellectual throw weight was $1 million, right?
Yes, this is the elite clique of the county right here.
That's right, exactly. And so they're deciding whether or not this needs to be done, and they're deciding maybe not. Maybe, I understand that people want everything that they want, but Rob Brandis later points out, I'm not really sure we can even do this because the state might say, hey, listen, we determined this, and this is a road that's in the county, but we're supposed to maintain these things. We're supposed to be making rules, and we don't like you changing our, this thing that we determined was perfectly fine. There could be a problem. I'm not saying there would be, but there might be a problem. Okay, the commissioners are going to say we have all power over all things, but at the weekly business session too, right? So anyway, they're just, and I'm thinking, okay, good for you. Let's use common sense. Not so much. Let's find out. Listen to this.
Yes.
Well, I would venture a guess that the people who are driving 48 miles an hour probably wouldn't obey the 35 stop.
Well, to me, the biggest thing is that there are people who live out there.
Yeah.
So that the community could certainly have a community meeting in that thing and someone let them know we'd appreciate it if you slow down like the rest of us.
Well, and maybe the board wants to consider some kind of a selective enforcement funding for the sheriff. So we have the ability with our counters to see when those folks are driving at speed within plus or minus an hour.
Within plus or minus 15 minutes.
15 minutes. And so frequently, it's one person on a road that size. It's between 5:30 and 6 o'clock every night. And pinch them once, and I bet your word gets out. And this is a common refrain. We had another one come in just yesterday, one speed bumps. He said, it's just the one lady at the end of the road flying through there. That's something you want to talk with Dave about, but maybe if you target some folks, we can work with Dave to say, hit that road for those 3 days, we'll get you data, and it'll be, fish in a barrel for your deputy who goes out there.
Wow. Hey, hang on a second. I wonder, what's the name of that street again?
Kanita.
Kanita. Listen, if you live on Kanita, tell the lady at the end of the street to cool it, or she's going to get a very expensive ticket.
Now
Okay?
that was they were just talking about another street with the lady and the speed bumps. Here they were talking about apparently one guy that they've got all the data twice a day in the morning, and then after work, like 5:30, this guy's driving 48, which is still about 10 miles under the speed limit, under this, accepted speed limit.
Roughly speaking, yes.
All the rest of his neighbors are driving just like you see sometimes on the Grass Pass Parkway, 20 miles under the speed limit.
Yes.
How many times you've been on a Grass Pass Parkway where it's 45 and you got somebody in front of you that's driving 25 miles an hour? Well, just move over to the right lane. That's all.
That's right. And listen, at the same time, listen, if you live out on rural roads, which many of us do,
yes,
you get used to the way things go there. And you know what? There's many times where I'm the faster guy on the road, and typically, mountain road etiquette sort of thing. You pull over for the faster traffic, and then, when they go by, you get back on the road, and vice versa. That's how it works.
They know where they're going. They've lived out there in this rural area all this time. Mm-hmm. And as long as they're under the guy's 10 miles under the speed limit. Okay.
In the meantime, we need to get the sheriff out there to do some enforcement. And let me see how many deputies we got, like 3. And, the sheriff just got done a couple of days ago making a claim on the news that we have more homicides happening in the county right now because there's not enough funding. And so now we're going to take a deputy and put him out on some, BFE, roadway and have him give tickets to one guy who hasn't even caused a problem.
He's
BFE,
just going a little
faster than everybody.
BFD. We're not going to say
it's a reference. It's a reference to Egypt. I'll just that's as far as we'll go with that one.
And look, the other thing too is this thing that digress just a little. The sheriff was talking about was about a couple of guys out in Selma, I think it was, where they had got into a fight with a guy. And one of them took a car jack, one of those. This is what I understand. A car jack. Just grabbed whatever was available. The other grabbed a piece of cement or whatever, and they beat this guy with it. Now, listen. Are they going to say, not enough people voted for the levy last time, so I think I'm going to beat this guy to death with a car jack? Not with the tire iron, with the car jack. Really?
Yeah,
are they thinking that, because there's no enforcement, we might as well use a car jack? I don't think so.
Because there's less chance of getting busted, I'm just going to murder this guy. Whereas ordinarily, I would have let him go. But now that I think I just might get away with it, I'm going to go ahead and murder him and risk spending the rest of my life in prison.
It's a crime of passion. It's not anything to do with the ISIS coming over the border. Remember that? These people are coming over the border. They're sowing seeds of discontent.
Yeah, you know what was weird is when we were in there talking to the sheriff, he alluded to this type of thinking when it was, you remember when the guy went in and he murdered the older couple in their homes up there in Colonial Valley. And it was a tragedy, but it had nothing to do with funding. Listen, had they had $1 billion more funding in the sheriff's department every year, they could not have stopped that. They could not have stopped that situation because it had nothing
the Crimes of Passion Fund.
Yeah, right. Well, they would have to literally be omnipresent.
Yes.
And you can't do that.
There's a plan for that. You know there is. Gerard Fitzgerald and Herb Carter were there with the previous.
Oh, the listening devices, yes.
Yeah, the listening devices that are devices that listen, right? Well,
Right.
don't forget also that there was the guy, a close friend of Keith Hex. He's the guy that also comes to Thursday admin meetings, and he's there Wednesday, just like Larry Ford and his brilliant wife Jan. And this is the guy that said, that person was killed, and probably as somebody that didn't vote for the levy. It's just too bad that the people who didn't vote for the levy, that they're not killed in their beds.
Right. Yeah. It's too bad that the people that were murdered weren't some pro levy or anti levy people. Yeah. That type of thinking is just, and you know what? I'm unfortunately, and I've had very nice conversations with the sheriff. I've never really had a cross word with the guy. Yeah. We've discussed how we were going to do these interviews and be fair to him, and I think we did.
Yeah, well, you saw him joking around when he's trying to take us to jail.
Right.
A video about what's at the jail, yeah.
Well, and so I don't think that he's necessarily been treated unfairly, but this pushing of the idea that you can't do the job with less than a certain amount of money. And then, of course, when they get the certain amount of money, which isn't anywhere near what full funding would have been, had they got this levy the last time, nowhere near what full funding was in like 2005 or 6. And yet, they may not even be able to move the crime stats at all with the extra funding. I don't get, you're going to have to do a better job of rationalizing that sort of thinking.
And they could not. They did try, but they just couldn't do a better job of rationalizing. It's all based on emotions, and we had the numbers, which is why he doesn't talk to us anymore, because we were killing him with the numbers.
Well, and Channel 10 is about to launch with a new set of interviews with having to do with safety in Josephine County over the next couple of days. Does anybody smell what's coming?
Yeah, because in a couple of days is going to be the November election. What comes 6 months later? The next levy.
That's right.
It's going to be during the time of the doggone primary, and that probably the next levy is going to be on there. We told you they were going to crank up for it immediately. Okay, so
they're sowing the seeds.
Yes, so get prepared. So here we are with this thing. Good, maybe more people will turn out for the primary. So here we are with this thing, and the commissioners have now come. First, they were being so reasonable, and I thought, great, we have a video of them being reasonable. Now they're talking about getting the sheriff out there. We'll play it all the way through, and then I'm going to ask. See, it used to be that this was the only way for people who didn't have a lot of money, hello, welcome to the club, could have any kind of enjoyment. They would go and sit back, maybe lay out, a blanket or something, and take a little rest under the trees. But you can't have that, especially the worse and worse and worse we're doing. When we were doing very well, people could go enjoy the parks for free. Now that we're not doing so well, the county wants to charge you for using the parks. The parks that you pay taxes for that keep the parks going, they must charge you extra, because you can't just be allowed to go and entertain yourself or park. Even park 2 blocks away. What if you live 2 blocks away? Well, you're going to get charged if Simon gets his way, because that's parkland that you're parking on. But it's not a parking fee, it's a day use fee. You're charged a day use fee for parking 2 blocks away because you're using the park. I'm not anywhere near the park, but you're using it because we say you are. So the problem with the auditors is it just all connects. Yesterday's logo over my shoulder was all these things connecting. The problem with the auditors is that when people pay their fee, it seems that the money that's being collected is kind of loosely monitored. Oh, really? Yeah. It's kind of like at the fairgrounds where they were collecting money, but then they couldn't quite account for where some of the money was going. It's not that they were definitely cheating us, but they were having trouble explaining it. When you have trouble explaining the money, you got big problems with auditors if they're being honest. Okay, and we've had problems with that too, and had to replace auditing firms. Yay, you can trust us. Yeah, right. So, so one of the problems with all this is that, as Simon points out, now some people What they'll do is they won't pay for the park pass, and they'll wait till you catch them. And then once you've caught them, to avoid the fine, they'll pay for the park pass. Well, Simon doesn't like that because that means they can just wait until they're caught and then they pay the park fee. They're still going to pay it, but he doesn't like that. So there should be a penalty if you don't pay right away, and it should be double the amount to teach you a lesson that you can't avoid the long arm of the law, which is only the county commissioners, because who's involved in this? The sheriff's department, finance department. Think of this building up. The treasurer's office, the parks department, maintenance from people that are saying, you know, what, there's money, there's actual cash sitting in this box. I think I'm going to take that. Everybody's involved with the county commissioner's time. So I would ask you, maybe keeping up with the idea of people who are already paying for the park getting access to something which is beautiful in our community, stop charging them the fee. It's costing more to collect the fee than the fee is. Mike?
Okay.
Sorry, I went on too long.
Sounds
on that,
legit to me.
I'm sorry, I got off on a rant. But think of all the departments that are involved in this, because these guys decided that we needed to charge a fee for use of a free park. Anything to say about the turning roads into parks, Mike? That's the worst one to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what authority they have to do that. We kind of covered that, it seemed like, before, and you know, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do that. That's a toughie.
This is part of this redefinition of words. So their summary at the end of this, so we'd all be sure to catch them doing something good, was this. After all of that, and they're not sure what they're going to do now, certainly stopping the fees or stop raising the fees is not one of the options. This can be solved with new commissioners. Easily solved, okay? Their summary of all this, just so that we get the point, is even though they had no answers, J.J. Schofield summed it up by saying, well, we certainly do have some good options.